This boy laughed in court, mocking the victim's family, totally unremorseful, even insinuating that he'd be a free man in no time. But this laughter didn't just annoy the grieving family. It also caught the attention of the judge, who stepped in with words that immediately turned his arrogance into pure shock. This is the story of Dante Wright. If you're new to this channel, please click the subscribe button so you never miss any of our new stories. Now let's get into it. The courtroom was heavy with grief that day. Family members of the victim, 18-year-old Jordan Clay, stood before the judge, their voices trembling as they described what it felt like to lose their son, their brother, their friend. Their words carried pain, each sentence a reminder of the bright future that had been stolen from them. But across the room sat the young man responsible, Dante Wright, just 17 years old when he pulled the trigger. This was his sentencing hearing, a moment when most defendants show humility or at least keep their heads down. But Wright chose a different path. He smirked. He laughed. He turned to his family and, in a tone dripping with arrogance, said, "I'll be home soon. I love my family." It was as though he believed prison wouldn't hold him. As though this courtroom, with its rules and laws, couldn't possibly control him. His words were a dagger in the heart of Jordan's grieving family. They sat there in disbelief, wondering how someone who had taken a life could treat their pain as a joke. But the judge wasn't about to let this go. With a firm voice, the judge stopped the hearing and looked directly at Wright. What came next was the kind of moment that silences an entire room. The judge told him, "You are not going to be home soon. You are going to prison for a long time. And that's exactly where you belong." In that instant, the smirk faded. The laughter was gone. And the reality of his actions, of what he had done, and what awaited him, began to sink in. But to understand how we got here, to this chilling moment in court, we have to go back to the beginning. It was September of 2016 in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The city, known for its college atmosphere and quiet neighborhoods, was shaken when the body of 18-year-old Jordan Clay was found. Jordan was a high school senior, known for his warm smile and hard-working nature. He was loved by teachers and friends alike, described as respectful and full of promise. But one night, everything changed. Jordan crossed paths with Dante Wright. Wright was just 17 years old at the time, but he had already started down a dangerous road. Along with two other teens, he plotted to rob Jordan. Whether it was money, possessions, or simply a reckless act of power, their plan was rooted in violence. The robbery escalated, and in the chaos, Wright pulled a gun and shot Jordan. A life filled with potential ended right there, in a moment of selfish greed and reckless anger. Police moved quickly. Evidence pointed straight to Wright and his accomplices. At 17, Wright found himself facing adult charges: second-degree murder, armed robbery, and gun-related offenses. If convicted at trial of felony murder, he would have faced life in prison without parole. But prosecutors offered him a plea deal. Wright admitted guilt to second-degree murder and armed robbery. The deal spared him the mandatory life sentence, but it still guaranteed decades behind bars. For many young offenders, this is the moment when reality hits, when they realize their choices have destroyed lives, including their own. Some cry, some apologize, some sit in silence. But Wright? He laughed. At the sentencing hearing in March of 2017, Jordan's family gave their victim impact statements. They poured out their grief, describing the hole left in their lives, the dreams Jordan would never achieve, the birthdays and holidays that would never be the same. As they spoke, the courtroom noticed Wright's demeanor. Instead of showing remorse, he leaned back, grinned, and chuckled as though it were all a game. When it was his turn to speak, he shocked everyone. He didn't apologize. He didn't acknowledge the pain he caused. Instead, he smirked at his family and declared, "I'll be home soon." Those words felt like a slap in the face to Jordan's loved ones. Their boy was never coming home. Yet here was the killer, mocking them, suggesting that his punishment would be short-lived. The room was tense, people staring in disbelief. But then the judge leaned forward and broke the silence. His voice was sharp and direct. He told Wright that his words were not only inappropriate but completely detached from reality. And then he delivered the sentence that would shatter Wright's cocky illusion. Wright was sentenced to 23 to 50 years in prison. That meant he wouldn't even be eligible for parole until he was in his 40s. Decades away. And if the full sentence was carried out, he wouldn't be free until he was an old man well into his 70s. The arrogance drained from Wright's face. His laughter had vanished. In its place was the cold realization that his youth was slipping away, that prison walls would surround him for most of his adult life. For Jordan's family, no sentence could bring him back. Their pain was permanent. But they left the courtroom knowing that justice had spoken. The system had not been mocked. The story of Donna Wright stands as a chilling reminder of how arrogance and poor choices can destroy multiple lives. One teenager dead, another teenager condemned to spend his life behind bars. Two families shattered, each in their own way. And the image that lingers is unforgettable. A boy who thought he could laugh in the face of justice, only to be silenced by the very system he mocked. Today, Wright is sitting behind bars, surely thinking over his life choices and actions. Maybe by the time he comes out, he'd be a changed person. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.